everyone, and welcome to episode 20 of Kingdom of Kodiak. I'm Kodiak. With me today is Sir Randall Andolsa. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing very well. I'm having a good day so far. How are you?
Oh, fantastic.
Your Majesty.
All right. Without wasting any of your time, let's get into the bare necessities, Saracen. Where does Randall Andolsa come from?
Do you mean the name?
Yes.
That is frankly one of my favorite Amcor questions to ask people. I love asking people about their Amcor persona names. So get ready. For me, Randall was named after a D&D character I had when I was 16 years old, who was a thief, because we had the thief class in Dragonspine because we were playing with alternative classes. They hadn't been standardized as well yet. And I wanted to have a persona that was a thief. And that was at the time when people had multiple personas for different classes. So I used that. And I got that character's name, the D&D character, from Time Bandits, because there's a dwarven thief in there who steals from God. The Andolsa part comes from a household called Andolsa that I was invited into by Astrian Andolsa on the way to Gathering of the Clans in 1994, maybe? 5? 3? I think it was 1993. And he says, do you want to be in House Andolsa? And I said, sure. I have no idea what it is. I'm still not sure what it is. It was a thing then, but almost everybody in it has since quit or moved on. I've inducted one person into it since because I emailed somebody I knew in the household and said, hey, you're still active too, right? And I guess we don't care, but by the way, I added Larissa to Andolsa. And they didn't respond because I don't think they like me.
Oh.
So that's where the name comes from.
Okay. And I know you have a long time in game, but how long exactly are we talking?
I started playing in the first Saturday in November 1992. And I played consistently from 1992 to 1995. And in the spring of 1995, I was our Kingdom Prime Minister. I was not doing very well with that. I was not doing very well with Amtgard. And I quit Amtgard. I burned out. I didn't enjoy it. There were a lot of things about it I just wasn't into. And attended sporadically for the next few years, mostly going to the group Shadow Vale and Alamogordo now and then, and coming to the occasional Kingdom Feast. And it wasn't until 1999 that I fought again, that I came back to fight. Played 2 weekends in 99. And then I came back in the spring of 2000 and I've been playing ever since.
And we're glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be here.
What would you say is your favorite award that you've received?
Wow. Favorite award that I've received. I have a little bit of a trouble with the idea of favorite. When people say, hey, what's your favorite color? I often think that the answer that I'm giving is, well, I have to have an answer. So this is the one that I've got ready for you.
Okay.
But I haven't planned one for this. So I'm gonna have to think about it for a second. I would think it might be Master Hydra. Okay. There's a competition there. It might be Master Hydra, and that's because that was sort of a recognition of plugging away at this for a long time, but not merely being, hey, I was at Amtgard for this time, but I was doing something with my time, something that I enjoy. Something that may often get overlooked because after a few Hydras, what's the point of getting more? So I think maybe Master Hydra, which I really enjoyed getting. I also got a bottle of whiskey with it because it was 21 Hydras when I got the Masterate, I believe. So it was old enough to drink, sometime around that time frame. But barring that, it might be the most recent Griffin. Because I remember I had a bunch of Griffins from when I played before 95. And that was at a time when people took pretty light shots, but several of us would take just even grazes, like Eclipse Your Garb, we take the shot. And I don't know why we were, in hindsight, that was not a good idea. But it made us all happy. It made people we were fighting pretty happy sometimes. And it also generated a lot of Griffins. So I quit Amtgard with 6, maybe 5. And then I came back in 99, as I said, and I went to the field. And the person that I happened to fight, I barely fought at all that day. The person I happened to fight was King Farrell Lynn. That was 1999. And I fought him a couple times, and I took his shots. He's like, wow, you're really good at taking shots. So he gave me a Griffin. I got 1 Griffin from that reign, and I was out there for 1 week. And then I came out 1 week in the next reign when Kershan was king in 99 as well. And I fought him on the field, and the same thing happened. I took a shot. He goes, wow, you're really good at doing this, taking the shot thing. Here's a Griffin. So I walked away with 8 Griffins, having not played Amtgard in a long time. And then I think it was 12 years, no, 15 years, maybe something like that, some absurd length of time before I got another Griffin. And so that was my 9th. And I was really pleased about that because it's one of those awards that people forget. And the idea that all that this is the way we're supposed to play Amcor. We need to take each other's shots. We need to give each other the benefit of the doubt. We need to be courteous. It was really nice to feel like that was paying off. So I'm a big fan of Griffins. I love giving Griffins, and getting one at that point made me realize, well, okay, it's not forgotten. It's still there.
It doesn't necessarily mean anything, but one of my favorites for you is the Skull of the Black Dragon. But that was during my time, so
I adore that one absolutely. I liked it because it was from By Who, so it was a gesture from someone who's dear to me, and was one of my kings who I really appreciated. And also Skald, I liked that a lot because my persona from the 90s, I built this persona to be a skald, to be a storyteller, to be a poet, a Viking themed storyteller and poet. And that was something that he recognized with that award. And of course the Black Dragon bit as well, because Dragonspine is near and dear to my heart. And being able to get that kind of recognition titled after the Black Dragon meant a lot to me, especially when I was king in 2004. I created an award, the Defender of the Black Dragon, for everyone who fought on Dragonspine's side during the Burning Lands Dragonspine War, which just jumped on us unexpectedly, and we won. And it was our first huge win as a kingdom. So I gave everybody that award. But being king, you cannot give an award to yourself, as you know. So everyone who fought that day on our side got it except for me, which a future monarch ended up giving that to me regardless. But that's the kind of thing that sticks in my head, that these are recollections and memories, and they're tied to our kingdom, which is so important to us. And I appreciate being in, I love giving those awards, and then the occasional getting them is also fun too.
Yeah. All right, so let's get a little bit of nitty gritty here. What's your favorite kind of battle game?
I think I like life pool games, where both sides have a pool of a number of lives. And I think the reason that I like them the best, although I like all battle games, but except for maybe Shatter Battles. I don't like Shatter Battles. But I think that the reason that I love Life Pool the best is you have an objective that you can get towards by fighting. There may be another objective that you can achieve by not fighting. So there's still victory to be achieved by wiping people out, but there's never a situation where you get killed a bunch and you have to sit down before everyone else does. When your team is finally done, you're all done. If you win, you all win. And I really like that.
And when we're playing our favorite battle game, what would be the class of choice?
For me, healer.
Yeah.
I would have said warrior in the day. I played a ton of warrior. I armored up. I built my armor kit to be able to absorb arrows in V7 because I was tired of getting one-shotted by arrows. When V8 comes around, it landed at 3 points, which is enough to play V8 very well. I had javelins. I had greaves that I added because I was tired of getting legged. So I built this whole warrior kit, and I love warrior. One of the best feelings is wading into a crowd of bad guys and killing 3 of them, and they all hit me, but they all hit me once. So 3 scavengers and you're back in the game. So I love warrior. I can't say enough good things about it, but if I have to be honest, the class that I'm playing the most is healer. And it's a build that I got from Dutch in the Iron Mountains when we were sitting around at a burger bar talking about classes, and he dropped a spell list on me, and I said, that's the best thing I've ever heard, and I've been using it ever since.
Fantastic. All right, so those are the bare necessities. Let's get to the 3 general questions we have on Kingdom Kodiak every week. There is a toaster that Sir Glenolf is supposed to receive. There's potential that if this toaster breaks, Dom would repair it. The question for you is, what is the quality of this toaster that we're giving away? And would you be okay with Dom repairing it?
Wow. Glenolf, a toaster for Glenolf?
Yes.
I can think of few people in Amcard who are as good and noble and dedicated as Glenolf is. And so he's been here for a very long time. He's always worked hard at the game. He has never complained or asked for anything. He's just always there to have a really good time. And one of my most vivid memories is a harvest war where we walked out to the battlefield and he was out there with a bunch of rope, and we said, what are you doing? First of all, we're going to lose because the Iron Mountains is here and they're just going to kill us a bunch. But secondly, what are you doing? And he was laying assassin traps all over the place, because assassins had that ability then where if you walked into their circle of fabric, you were immobilized for a period of time. He says, don't worry, I have a plan. We're going to assassin trap the Iron Mountains. Because that's how into battle games he was. And of course, they walked out there and they looked at them and they said, those are assassin traps, and they walked around them. But it stuck in my mind. And I've loved Glenolf before that and ever since. So I would say he deserves the best possible toaster that we can afford, which might be none if we're broke as a kingdom, but maybe we can fundraise for it. And secondly, I would trust Dom to repair anything. He is hardworking. He cares about the work that he puts into things. And I have not found anything yet that he can't repair or fix with his hands. So he's good at that kind of stuff. I trust him.
Very true. All right. Well, there we go.
I think we gave him an award for fixing things. There was a car that broke down at an event, and he used like a piece of rebar or something to fix it. And so he got an Order of the Lion for going above and beyond and taking charge of situations and fixing a car so somebody could get off the gathering at the Klan's site. So yeah, I trust him.
Yeah, sure. There we go. All right. Still would like to know, what are your thoughts on bears and who is the best bear?
Well, you would have to be the best bear, I would say. Of all the bears that I know, the absolute best. I like bears because they look like dogs. Present company included, accepted. How do you feel about dogs?
I have dogs are all right.
Dogs are all right. I had a conversation about dogs earlier today where somebody said to me, are you working to avoid using the word ugly to describe people? And I said, absolutely. I would only ever use ugly to describe someone's personality. And then I paused and I said, and also dogs. Because some dogs are kind of ugly, aren't they?
They're ugly dogs. Well, thank you. I still have, that's 1-1 for anyone keeping track at home.
Are we having a league? Are we doing a pool?
Well, we weren't, but now we are. And speaking of pools, DS is in
$5 on Kodiak.
Yes. What are your thoughts on Dragon Spine getting a pool? It would be mobile. There would be a jacuzzi as a side event.
We're in a desert. Water's a bit dodgy. I think there are probably better things that we can do than buy a pool.
Okay.
Maybe a bouncy castle would be really nice. But pools, I'm ambivalent. If the populace would like to get a pool, they have my support and encouragement, and I would help facilitate the purchase of said pool.
Okay. Would bears be allowed in this pool?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Most of the best videos on the internet are bears splashing in pools.
There you go. But bears would not be allowed in the bounce house, or is that
in the what?
In the bounce house.
Oh, well, I guess it depends on the size of the bear, doesn't it? We would probably have to have a this tall to ride or this large to ride sign next to the bounce house. And if the bear fits, the bear sits.
Love it. All right. Okay. So on Kingdom of Kodiak, I break the questions down into a couple different categories. This week we have a nightly chat, so that's one of our categories. The next one that we always have is the funny category, which Sir Randall has a plethora of questions. But then I get two other categories. And for you specifically, I chose wisdom and valor.
Wisdom and valor.
Yes, I did.
You're going to give me some trauma here, but please keep going.
Roll for corruption.
All right. Here we go.
Okay. Tajima wants to know, how would you describe Amtgard to someone who's never played before?
Is that how you say his name?
Tajima, yes.
Okay. How would I describe Amtgard? Well, I have described it to people who've never played before. I've described it as we dress up funny and we hit each other with foam bats. And they ask about the role-playing component, and you try to sell it, but really we dress up funny and hit each other with bats. And then I'll spin it out further from there and say that there's also the crafting that we do. We make all our own things. We make weapons, we make garb, and we teach people how to do that. We have tournaments for fighting contests. We have arts contests as well. And that begins to get them a little bit more nodding if they aren't just there for clobbering each other. And so I think it's important to talk about it that way, to include all the things that it does. There are some difficult ways to describe Amtgard too that I think speak to, and maybe this is too serious for the question, but they speak to what we as an organization need to do. I had at least one person who I said, hey, you're new to the area, you don't know a lot of people, you should come check out Amtgard. And she said, sure, I'll take a look. And she searched for it online and she says, that's a bunch of white dudes. And it just gave a vibe of an atmosphere that just didn't have people who looked like her included in the organization. And so I've been careful to talk about Amtgard in those terms too, because it both confronts the reality of what we're playing with and the challenges that we have in terms of making our organization as welcoming as possible to people who don't look like you and don't look like me.
Right, absolutely. And it piggybacks off of the talk we had with Adeo, Zana, about diversity and inclusion. So absolutely. Still had a lot of people asked, but in different ways. What keeps you motivated? What's your drive? What keeps you coming to Amtgard every week?
Like right now?
Well, I mean, when we're allowed to normally meet.
Normally meet.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a rough one because I don't know. My drive, it is of the tidal variety. It comes and it goes, so they say. So I find that for a long time, my drive was because I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a case of, hey, I'm not having a good time. How am I going to get out to Hamcourt this week? It was because I want to go out there and I want to fight and I want to dress up and I want to play a class and I want to run battle games for people. And we have an ANS contest coming and all this stuff that just really got me jazzed. Or I would have a reign as monarch where I'd have all these ideas that I wanted to see come into fruition and bring other people with me on those ideas. I would like to say that that's where I am currently, but that's not the case. I find that I'm enjoying a lot of the AmGuard things that I have been doing, but I also would be lying if I didn't say I've enjoyed the break. The thing that I miss is seeing my friends at the park. The thing that I miss is going to Taco Bell. The thing that I miss is fighting on Saturday. I miss our tavern, sitting down and playing drum dice and playing Tonk and things like that. That was so much fun. But for me, trying to get the AmGuard microscope as close as possible to you and to me and to our park has been really important to me. I've been working at sort of divesting myself of other responsibilities in the organization so that I can get down to that pure part of AmGuard that I most enjoy anymore. Which isn't to say that I haven't enjoyed the other parts. I did the things that I did in AmGuard because I loved them. I loved doing them for a very long time. I would go to Circle of Monarchs meetings because I enjoyed doing Circle of Monarchs meetings. I enjoyed facilitating them and helping do the business of AmGuard and helping lift up other people who had really good ideas and they're trying to figure out how can we get a yes vote on these things? How can we make this happen? Mm-hmm. But at the moment, I'm enjoying thinking about the little AmGuard, the AmGuard at the park, the AmGuard of how can we get the 16th person to come out to the park? How can we hit 20? How can we make this battle game this day really cool?
Yeah. It is, from an outside observer, it's really nice to be able to see you step back from the more inter-kingdom and kingdom level stuff and just be able to sit down at the park with us and enjoy what park is. You know, to see you and Sane and, you know, whoever else is around the table just smiling and having a good time, that's all you can ever ask for. I mean, it's super awesome that you've helped us get the game to where it is now, but being able to have you at a local level is really awesome.
I appreciate that. I don't feel like I haven't been there at the local level. Like I've been playing every week, right? Even when I was doing Inner Kingdom stuff. But I get what you mean about, you know, people show up at the park and they have their Inner Kingdom concerns at the back of their heads. They have that stuff kind of weighing on them a little bit. And the conversation may turn to, oh, what are we going to do about this thing that's happening? As opposed to what you're talking about, where we can just show up at the park and be all, hey, got any responsibilities? Nope, me neither. let's smash, let's do it.
Let's just do the thing, right? All right, so Tajima asks another question. He wants to know advice that you would give to someone who's stepping into monarchy for the first time.
I appreciate you saying his name over and over so we can learn how to pronounce it. Yeah,
absolutely.
Tajima. Stepping into monarchy, and I assume the question means kingdom monarchy?
Well, it's any level for this question. So we're talking about people who are breaking into their first steps at leadership at the local monarchy, or maybe a little more of a veteran player who's stepping into their first kingdom office. Maybe that changes what you're telling them.
I wish I had really good advice for local monarchy because I'm not sure that I do. Now, I was king multiple times of the Kingdom of Dragonspine, and they were all before we transitioned into being a floating crown. I was king 8 times, and in the static crown system, you're responsible for attending to the needs of your other chapters, but you're also responsible for being the local monarch of your park. And so I was local monarch for our chapter 8 times, but that chapter, every time I was in charge of it, was one of the biggest chapters in AmGuard. Even when we were struggling for numbers, we're like, oh my goodness, we only have 30 people at the park. It was one of the biggest chapters in AmGuard. And we just maybe didn't know what we were enjoying at the time. So for me, the trick was, let's just keep this engine operational because it's 30, that kind of generates its own enthusiasm. And let's have some really good time with some good themes, some good battle games, some bringing in new officers and meeting with them regularly and giving them good guidelines of here are my expectations, the kind of stuff you would expect in a workplace, you know? And here are the ways that you can succeed. At the last time I was monarch, maybe the second to last time, I sat down with my officers and I said, you're Guildmaster of Reeves. The award that the Corpora stipulates for that is, I forget what it was at the time, Lord? It was Lord. You don't have that title currently, but I expect that your Guildmaster of Reeves, you might be hoping for it at the end. Here are the things that if you do them, I will give you that award. and laid it out as clearly as possible as though it were a performance evaluation so that they knew. And then we had check-ins twice a reign where we'd say, are you on track? Are you not on track? And I feel like people appreciated that. But as far as running a park that is the average park in Amtgard, which is 12 to 15 people at most, I don't know that I have good advice on that because I was just learning to do it myself when our park closed and I was only sheriff for 4 months. And it was fun, but I don't know that I learned any lessons that I could hand off to people. So I'm personally curious about what lessons they could give me in terms of here's how you can run your park when there's 12 of you, when there's 10 of you, when you're worrying about, hey, if I don't go out today, will anybody be there? Those are the lessons I would like to learn. But for the kingdom, for the whole kingdom, I think that you need to focus on the communication. It needs to be well done, written communication, because that's what you do. Things what you're doing right now have become increasingly critical, face-to-face communication, so we see each other. And I would also frankly say, in the time that we're in, not just for our kingdom, where I think is important, but for any kingdom, I think an opportunity where you can bring together as many members of your kingdom as want to be there and say, hey, everybody, we're going to give everyone 2 minutes. Just talk about where you're at. Tell us about your life. How are you doing? Are you okay? And then just go through everybody that way, because you're going to hear stories you're not going to believe and that are going to humanize people and bind the kingdom together.
That's wow. That's a lot, and you're right. I mean, you have the aura and capabilities to be a leader at any level. And when we were doing the tavern stuff, you handled it fine. Well, I shouldn't say fine.
I'll take fine.
It was interesting being a new player at a duchy and a barony level, and then handing it off to a vet at a shire and being like, all right, what can we do?
Well, and the barony shire thing wasn't on you. That was my decision. We were still barony numbers when you were done with it. We were fine, but I thought that it might be really nice. And this is going back to what I was talking about in terms of let's get to some real basics here that we're going to enjoy. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be nice for our chapter to say, we're not going to worry about all that stuff that baronies have to do. We're not going to worry about all that stuff that bigger chapters. We're just going to be a shire. And if we get to it, we'll get to it. And I think that's been really healthy for our local group. Maybe with my bias, but I feel healthier for having gone that route.
Absolutely. Plus, there was food every week, which was
that was the kitchen of Kodiak.
Yeah, right. All right. So I think that actually answers the next question about inner kingdom and kingdom level versus park level stuff. So we'll move on to Tristan's question about what tradition or practice from the 90s of Amtgard would you like to bring back?
What tradition or practice from the 90s? The 90s had a lot of good things. It definitely had a lot of rocking things as well. I feel like the 90s and the early 2000s were sort of a heyday for bullying in Amtgard and for a lot of our toxic culture. The stuff that we say now, my goodness, that's toxic. And a lot of Olgar players will say, what are you talking about? We all played that way back in the day. Well, yeah, and then people like me quit. So there's a lot of things that are problematic, but there were a lot of things that were cool. I think that our garb now is better, although the Amtgard aesthetic of a tunic and a sash and who knows what else is still kind of very Amtgard. But if you look at back in the day, we had pillowcases and stuffing and a bed sheet on, so it was a mixed bag too. But when I came back in 2000, I was not quite the unfrozen caveman that King Tristan is, but I've been gone for several years. And I came back to Amtgard with an idea of, hey, we're going to bring back some things that we used to do that we don't do anymore. And the thing that I brought back in our chapter was we had a competition called Master of the Hunt that we've done occasionally since, wherein it was meant to be a role play contest. And it was based on the very first Master of the Hunt in the Duchy of Dragonspine, where my knight, Egil Njalsen, and our founder, Quicksilver Lightfoot, and a few other people were all involved in this hunt where they were hunting animals and so forth on the field. And it was designed not as a, hey, how many deer can you kill? It was designed as a, hey, there's deer out there, but really we're going to give the award to the best role player. And Egil was playing his alternate persona, because that's what we did back then, Bjarni Njalsen, who was his character's son. When he was a druid, he was Egil. When he was a scout, he was Bjarni. All Viking names. And he ended up weeping over his deceased friend who had been gored by a deer, but they were actually fine. He just doesn't know because Bjarni is not very smart. So I love that kind of stuff. And so I brought back the Master of the Hunt when I came back. And I made a belt favor for it, with little paws on it. And it might have had a Dragonspine logo in the corner. And I gave it to the first Master of the Hunt. And we ended up passing that down for a decade, reign to reign, master of the hunt. Because each master of the hunt, their one job was run a master of the hunt contest sometime that reign and give the belt favor away to the person for the next reign. I think it's still around. I'm not sure who has it anymore. It might be Raishad. He might have it somewhere. It might be me for a while. I don't know. I went to my belt favors and I don't, but it might be somebody that still has that favor. So I think about stuff like that, but I bet that Tristan, for his part, could get a lot of mileage out of a bridge battle in the Burning Lands. Those are always fun, and those are super traditional.
Yeah. The one time that we visited and actually fought on the bridge was very historic. It was a first time for me.
Did you feel like you were going to hurt yourself on that bridge? Yeah. I did. Like, oh my goodness, this is so dangerous, because Amtgard was a lot more dangerous back in the day. Yeah. And I'm not saying that that was a good thing, but there is that occasional bit of what is the word I'm thinking of? Your adrenaline just fires when you realize, I could get pushed off this bridge and trampled. This is going to be bad.
I can't wait. Yeah.
Right? When's that going to happen?
Yeah. Okay. So still that serious question. What is imposter syndrome, and why do so many Amtgarders have it?
Imposter syndrome is the notion that despite that you know how to do the thing that you're doing, you're looking at yourself saying, how did I get here? How am I the one doing this? Why are people looking at me for answers? Am I good enough? Is my art good enough? Is my leadership good enough? Am I good enough in my job? Or if you're standing in front of a classroom teaching, how did I get here? I was a student just a few years ago. Why are they paying me to do this? That's imposter syndrome, where you know enough about what you're doing to be pretty good at it, but also to know what you don't know and to realize how much you have left to know, and to feel like you have so many gaps that you just can't possibly live up. So you might do a paper for academia and think, well, I got a paper done, it's getting published. And you go to a conference and they're all, we would like you to read your paper. We'd like you to do a presentation on it. And you're thinking, you're a PhD and you've been published in journals nationwide and you're an expert in your field and you want me to do this? And they're looking at you like, yeah, we do. That's imposter syndrome. And the thing is, most people who have imposter syndrome are pretty good about what they do. People who are terrible about what they do don't tend to have imposter syndrome, because they just don't know enough to know. If they're beginners, they just don't know enough to know what's good and what's bad. And people who are exceptional at what they do, they also sometimes still get imposter syndrome, but they also have acquired enough skills to really perform that analysis on what they're doing. As far as why Amtgarders have it, I think it's for a couple of reasons. The first, well, three. The first is we have an award structure, which provides a measurement. It is not an objective measurement. We try, it's not. No award is objective. People say warriors are objective, they're wrong. They are no more objective than roses, they're equally subjective. But people feel like, okay, I'm at a 7 and that means something. Does it? No, not really, but they think that it does. And then they look at what they're doing and they're thinking, well, is what I'm doing a 7? How did this happen? They ask those same questions. So the award structure is part of it. And then you get knighted and you're all, well, I felt really good as a master, but now I'm a knight and I'm way back at the bottom again. Amtgard constantly restarts you. You get an award, you're suddenly at 10, so you've moved up that chain, then you go to master, so you're at the bottom of the masters, and you go to knights. So it's constantly restarting you, making you question where you're standing, and I don't know if that's healthy. But secondly, a lot of the things that we do in Amtgard, when you stand back, you're like, well, this is all kind of goofy, isn't it? Like, I'm getting an award for being pretty good at making dresses or whatever, things like that. And you're like, well, what does it actually mean? So we question ourselves in that angle, because it's all dedicated towards the fantasy, swords, and sorcery that we're doing. But then we take those skills to the real world and people say, holy cow, how do you do that? And I think that the third thing is that we have such a wide variety of skill in Amtgard. A master in one place will have different skills and different levels of skills than a master in another. Knights, there's a spectrum of knights. You'll have a crown knight in one place and a crown knight in the other, and they could have done wildly different things that might pass muster in some kingdoms and not others. And maybe that's fair, maybe that's not. I have some ideas that we should change that, but it is what it is, right? Even if we do change it and say, sure, we'll allow that, we encourage it, you're going to have that vast spectrum of ability, even within the range of a master or a knight or a 10th order. And that's going to make people look at themselves and question, well, I know that person over there shouldn't be a 10th, so should I? What about this person over here? What about, there's Goldcrest, should I be here? People will ask them those questions, and I think that those all contribute to at least as much imposter syndrome as Amtgard as you would see in a place like academia.
Do you think that there's you see it more in Amtgard versus academia, or are we talking about this is just what happens?
I think I see it more in Amtgard than I do in a workplace. People in workplaces, they don't question whether or not they're capable. and that maybe is a problem. But I see it at least as much as I do in academia. When you're surrounded by grad students, they're all like, what am I doing here? And you know, by your third year in grad school, you're pretty good at what you're doing, even though you're still beginning as far as some tracks go. I know a lot of PhDs who are all, what am I doing here? But then you get them talking about their subject, and then boom, they're experts. I think that AmpGuard is more similar to academia in terms of the mental harm it causes because of that chain, in terms of the depression and anxiety that it contributes to because of that chain, in terms of the imposter syndrome that it produces because of that chain, but also in terms of the heights that we can reach and the successes that we can have and the shoulders that we can stand on because of that chain. So I think that it has all the pluses and minuses of academia.
Well, that's good.
I'm sure there's a lot of grad students, former grad students listening right now who are biting their lips or pulling their collars, and most of them are called Brittany.
There's a combination question here between Tajima and I believe Lightning. What is your favorite event to attend, and why is it Rakus?
Tajima, right?
Yes.
Okay. We'll get it eventually.
Yeah.
Why is my favorite event Rakus? Well, Rakus is my favorite event because of several reasons. I'll go through them quickly. The first is many of my best friends in the game are at Rakus. I love the Iron Mountains. My fealty is to Dragonspine, but my heart occasionally belongs to the Iron Mountains because I love them so much. It's a fantastic kingdom, and the one true queen, the queen in the north, Promethea, is currently their empress and is doing incredible work for a closed kingdom, as we all are, right, except for Northreach. She's doing incredible work, and I think that she's sort of the gold standard that we should all look to and say, how can I improve? What ideas can I take? Because she's just so good at it. So as many of my friends are there, I admire their excellence. I love Rakus because of Best of the Best. It's my favorite ANS contest in the game. I love judging it. I love entering it. I like winning it. And also there was a time that I showed up to their event and they greeted me at the gate and they said, well, we have belt papers for everybody based on Skyrim, but we custom made this one for you. And it's white and it's got the Skyrim logo on. And don't think I didn't notice that it was a backdoor anti-paladin favor, but it says Randall of our hearts on it. And the Skyrim is holding up a heart. And I love that belt paper so much. And I've very seldom felt as loved in AmpGuard as I did at that moment. And, you know, I've cried a lot at Rakus. I've had some bad days at Rakus, but that was one of the really good ones.
That's awesome.
Also, my favorite event is Feast of Mars. But
got it. Nailed it. Your squire, we won't necessarily go into names because you need to practice without hearing it. Would like to know, do you get nervous performing bardics? You just performed one yesterday.
Well, funnily, I did not perform any bardics yesterday. Instead, I did a performance AMA where one of the questions was, do you get nervous performing bardics and how do you handle that? So I recommend that people tune into that. It was on the Iron Mountains Facebook page for the expanded answer on that. The short answer is yes. I didn't used to. I'm good at memorizing things and then doing a performance. I'm good at standing in front of a crowd and speaking. But one time I got up in front of a Dragon Master, which was not my preferred competition. Back in the day in Dragonspine, ANS was our main contest. Dragon Master was our backup. I don't know what it is now. I haven't really been involved in ANS contests for a couple of years, but that's what it was at the time. So you really wanted to win the ANS championship, but Dragon Master was your warm-up. Well, I got into a Dragon Master, and I was doing the Crispin's Day speech, and I stopped because I could not remember my next line. And for a while, the judges thought that it was a dramatic pause. And then they realized that I had just forgotten the line. And then I stopped and I said, excuse me, and I thought about it. And I started up the lines before it again, and I got back into it. But it, tanked my score. And I ended up losing that Dragon Master to the other Serpent Knight, the better Serpent Knight in the house, because of that score being tanked. Thankfully, it was a Dragon Master, and I could bring that item just back to the ANS Championship and re-enter it again and do a lot better. But that shattered my confidence. And ever since then, I enter every competition I go to nervous that I'm going to flub a line. No matter how much I've practiced that bardic, no matter how much I've memorized it, I feel my stomach, I feel my throat, everything is bad. I also have nervousness of a different sort when I'm entering entertainment bardics. And that's more of, hey, all these people, they're here for songs. Are they really here for me? Do they really want to hear Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be? Do they want to hear the Jabberwock poem? And sometimes they do it. And so I just try to have as much of a sense as I can of what the mood of the crowd is before I stand up and say it's my turn. Otherwise, I'll just sit and listen to the music. But yeah, I get nervous at both.
Another 1-2 combo from Tajima and Lightning. What is your favorite art piece that you've done? And Lightning would like to know about your rune stones.
My favorite art piece that I've done. That's rough. Wow. As an artisan, I find that there's a wave of how you feel about your entries, where you start off with the idea and you're way up here, and then you start to make it and you start to come down here, and then you're looking at it and you're thinking this is terrible, and it comes back up here as you finish, and then you enter it and it gets scored, and maybe you go back up again. And I'm on that wavelength with everything that I've made. I get a lot of utility out of some, like I made this tunic here. It's a lot of fun. It's got flames down at the bottom and everything. I made the rune stones and they're nice, but then I feel like with every rune stone I improve enough, or Amcard's paradigm of art changes enough, that I look back at them and I think, what was I doing? These are not good. And also the thing with rune stones that I think people don't maybe understand, or maybe they do, is I'm relatively a beginner in them still. I just happen to be the only one of 2 people in Amcard who does them, which is a trick, by the way, if you're an artisan and you have something that's your gimmick. I would have to say it might be a poem, and that's the answer I'll give you, because you have to have an answer for favorites, right?
Sure.
There's a poem that I did for a recent Duchy Dragon Master that I swept through, and it is a modeled on like an 11th century Arabic style poem, and I built it to take some of the ideas that I'd learned in grad school and improve upon medieval poetry that we've been entering in our contest, and it did very, very well. It's one of the few poems that I've entered that did well as I hoped it would do, because poetry does poorly in Amcard. It was a lot of fun. One of the judges came up afterwards and said, "You actually wrote this? This wasn't something you found somewhere?" And no, I wrote it. Not even that one, though. I look at it and I think, well, here's bits and pieces that I saw this phrasing or this way of arranging things or this idea, and I integrated it and I synthesized it into my poem. And that's a challenge with learning, is that you synthesize so many ideas that you struggle with thinking, well, how much of that was me and how much of that was me learning, right? So I still look back at it and I have doubts, but I would say that's my favorite one, and I would be happy to show it to anybody who wants to see it.
Was that the battle that you read at the park?
Oh no, that one there, if I read it at the park for a battle, that was once more into the breach, dear friends, once more, or fill the wall up with our English dead. That was also Shakespeare, and I read that at the park as a performance piece.
That was one that you did before we went out to fight, and there was at least a dozen people that reached out to me and was like, I could kill everyone right now.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot.
I'm prepared. It was amazing. But anytime you speak is ask your squire. He was very excited to have you talk today. So
wonderful. Maybe we'll say his name again someday.
Deverick Stormcrest would like to know, what is your favorite episode of Kingdom of Kodiak?
That is a good question. So until about the 12th or 11th episode, my Wednesdays were fairly full. So it wasn't until then that I had the opportunity to start listening to them. And I've enjoyed every one that I've heard. I believe you had Francis on, and that was a lot of fun. Yeah. You had Dom on, and that was something else.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what to expect from the Xander the Reaper one, because he's so stoic all the time, isn't he? That like, hey, having a good time today. How's that battle game? Good.
Yeah, it was all right.
And you know that means it was fantastic. He had a really good time, but he's so stoic. And I found myself, I mean, I love the guy, but I found myself really feeling fond for him as he was being so conversational and giving you detailed answers. I would say my favorite is Anatole, because Anatole is one of my favorite knights in the game. He is so thoughtful and caring and careful and dedicated about his craft and his role as a knight and what he's doing in Amcard, and he always has been. And he's such a good speaker. I found so many things in his presentation. You were asking him questions and he was giving these deep, thoughtful answers that I was thinking, wow, I wish that I could give an answer like that, because he's doing so well right now. I would say, if anybody is listening in Amcard and you have a slot where you need some speaker to come on and talk to you about anything, fighting, but also anything, bring on Anatole, because it was a great talk show that you gave him, and it was a great set of answers that he gave you.
And it's one that sticks out not only because it's my longest currently, but the history of the wheel as a baseball team just
Did you not know they were a baseball team?
No, I didn't, and I'm really excited about it.
Early 2000s, they played in the field by the park, and they just saw us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm glad.
They were not very good at baseball.
No, but they're really good at sword fighting, from what I hear.
No, and you would think like Charles can throw a ball. You would
Yeah, he's
think,
good at a catch. He is good at a catch.
and yet they're an amp guard.
Yeah, there they are. Devrick would also like to know, expanding on the episodes of Kingdom of Kodiak, what you thought the most important part of the episode with Lady Zana last was. What would you say is the most important out of that episode?
Oh my goodness, that was the one that was just last week or the week before last, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And that was one where I was busy that night, so I ended up missing it. So what I need to do is, in order to answer your question fairly, I need to go listen to it and then bring an answer back. I'm not going to do that right now, but I will do it. But I think that what Zana's doing and what Dallin is doing with diversity and inclusion is critical in our organization. Because the Circle of Monarchs came forth and they unanimously, every one of them, except for the one that was blocked by the poster who didn't see it and then didn't respond when they were told about it, unanimously voted in favor of the inclusivity statement to say that we believe that not only should we be welcoming of all races, religions, colors, and creeds and genders, they said that, but they also said that we should lift up the people who do not have the safety and the privilege that people like you and me have as a matter of course. I can go anywhere in Amtgard and I'm going to be safe and I'm going to be welcome and I'm going to have people who look just like me, but not everybody's me. And so the Circle of Monarchs said that 19-0. And then I'm not sure what the kingdoms did. And I'm not sure what the Circle of Monarchs did after that. So the fact that we eventually got a DNI advocate, who's fantastic, by the way, he's doing great work, and that he's having the great idea of going out and getting advocates in the individual kingdoms is so important. Because we can talk a big game about our organization being inclusive, but until we start to reach out and analyze what we're doing and think about it, we're not going to get there. So I have the highest admiration for everyone involved in that project. And I suspect that after I watch the presentation, if my answer is not the toaster answer, it's going to be the work that Zana's doing on diversity and inclusion.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always want to try to feed off of your excellent answers. And yeah, you're right. You did it. You're right. So I'm just going to move on. Darius asked, if you were able to ask Sir Randall a question, and you did give an answer to this in a form of a question. Yes.
What was my answer? My goodness.
Your answer is, what can I do to make Amtgard better?
Oh, whoa.
So, Sir Randall, you've been asked by Sir Randall, how can you make Amtgard better?
Wow. Wow. Oh, that's a hard question. What can I do personally, or what can I recommend other people do?
Let's talk about you.
Wow. Well, I have found that a lot of the offices that I've held in Amtgard have had to be offices of compromise. When you're a monarch, you have a large populace, and not all of them are going to see eye to eye, as you know, and you have multiple points of view that you have to navigate. When I was monarch, it was almost impossible to ban people, for example, because our structures are that way. But even in the structure that you've got now, where you have 3 officers that have to agree to suspend a problem player, they still have to agree. And you might find yourself in a situation someday where 2 of them are saying, no, we don't think we should do that. And you're saying, come on, we have to do this. But you get outvoted. And then how do you deal with that? And how do you present that to the kingdom? I have found that a lot of the time that I've been in Amtgard has been in a capacity like that, where I have multiple people giving me multiple pieces of input, and I've got to put it together somehow and come up with an answer. And I know my answer is not going to be a good one because compromise seldom is. If I can get consensus, that's a win. If I can get compromise, we lose a little bit, but we get something. And there was a broad period in time in Amtgard when we needed that, because you have all these kingdoms with these wildly different ideas, way less agreement than we have even in our most disagreeable day to day. And you've got to get them together so you can build Amtgard. I'm not sure the advice I have now is the advice that would have worked then, because we really needed somebody like me to be in the executive secretary role and to have no opinions, just to sit there and say, we're going to administer this, we're going to do this, we're going to keep everything running for you. And then when I was executive chair, I also operated in very much that same vein. Occasionally I would go with the mandate because they had given the chair a mandate of bring us ideas, and I would do that too. But it's hard when the monarchs are presenting things that you're thinking, that's that's bad. That's bad for the game. And you're thinking, how can I still keep our organization intact and our consensus intact, and not overstep my role of not only am I here to bring you ideas, but I'm here to keep us all together, and I'm here to be a trusted unifying source. So my advice to me at that time would have been keep the course, stay careful, stay compromising. But I don't know, because you lose something when you do that. You win the unifying, but you lose something in the way of ideals, and you lose something in the way of things that you might really want to achieve. And you think, well, is that just me, or is this the consensus, or is this the majority? I think my advice now might be courage of your convictions, go out there and do the thing, stand up for the thing that you believe in really, and let someone else worry about the consensus. Let someone else worry about how do we compromise Randall's stern position with these other stern positions that are opposite it, because it's not my job to worry about that anymore. So that might be my advice. That said, I don't regret a lot of the let's stand back and be neutral, because it really taught me to be, I don't want to say careful, but to be conscious and thoughtful about the things that I post online. Because I'd have to think, yes, these are my views, but these kingdoms have to trust me to be a neutral person too, when I was executive secretary. So maybe these aren't views that I should be saying, or that I should be saying quite in this way.
Very good. So that ends our wisdom category.
We're all out of wisdom anyway, so.
We're all out of wisdom.
Next.
We're moving on to valor. Dom would like to know your favorite single sword move or combo.
Wow. I would love to say that I have single sword moves and combos, but I'm not sure, because I will often forget a shot after I've been taught it, and then maybe remember it a few months later. I feel that I get my wins anyway, but then I have to stop and think, and I find that, why am I losing? Oh yeah, it's because I forgot that I have shots. Wow. Well, the first one that came to mind is one he taught me, and that's where you walk up and you do the under slap, where you just very quickly snap into the base of the wrist, because people just don't know what's happening. They don't see it coming, and you get a lot of wins out of it. And then they realize you're doing it, and then they often still can't stop it. And you have a modified version of that where you have like a sort of a bear slap, where you do it sort of like sideways in towards, is it towards the sword arm that you do it? Because you're left, you do it towards the other arm, right?
So if I'm right forward, it would be your offhand. If I'm left forward, it would be your sword.
Yeah. And you get me with that one a lot too. So it's like that one there, but it's under instead of side, because I'm not very good at the side shots. After that, it would have to be a dark side, because you do a dark side in the bear pit and everybody falls for it. Like 10 wins in a row, free, because you're dark siding.
It's still got to be a spin for me. I still think single sword spinning is like the most fun.
You need to hit up Delos. You need to learn some 5-1-2s from Delos.
There we go. Darius would like to know, what is or are your favorite bard loadouts, and does the 0.98 credit come from Paragon status?
Oh my goodness. Let me say I am not a very good bard. I was made a master bard in 2002 by King Alucard at his mid-reign, and I say that with scare quotes because he'd been king for a year, and he was our first king to do it for a full year, or for 6 months, I mean, and the first king to do it for a full year. So he ran for a second term. So at his second stepping up, he called me up, and we were in a VFW hall, and I say VFW hall because that makes it exceptional, because we were allowed to drink in a VFW hall, which is not usual for our feasts. And so I was his herald, which is possibly my favorite office in Amtgard. I was his herald, and I was doing all the announcements, and he had snuck into the stack calling me up to make me a master bard. And master bard was a title that meant a lot to me, because I played bard a ton when I was a kid. And it was bad because the rules were so broken bad back then, and you could be really abusive with bard, and you could basically make it so a lot of people didn't have fun with Amtgard, which is why we had to change those rules. But I was 17 years old. I was kind of a little shit. But I was really good at it. And one of the things that left me bitter about Amtgard is I left without ever becoming a master bard. And I came back to Amtgard with this mood of, I don't care about awards. I don't care about who's in charge of what and who's doing what. I'm here to have a good time. And that was sincere. I'm not just saying that's how I was. That's how I was. And so I had forgotten about all of that until he calls me up and says, Master Bard. And I don't know if it was like 16-year-old me coming out, or I don't know if it was the drink that Ironpaw had given me, because my throat was so sore. He had given me some sort of whiskey and an orange and something like that and honey to clean it up. but I just lost it in front of court. I just started crying and bawling because I got made a master bard of all things. So, and then I barely played it ever since. And even before that, I wasn't really playing it that much either. And I played it in V8 because I wanted to test it out, and I really like a lot of Bard in V8. I think it is one of the most versatile classes, and I think people who are quick-witted and quick-spoken and decent fighters and have armor can make Bard so effective, but I never play it. So if I had to say a loadout, if you told me today, gun to your head, Randall, you're going to play Bard, I would say, either I'm going to put on armor and take songs and sing badly, or I'm going to go ahead and do dervish and take some spells and stuff and just spin around with 2 swords. Probably the armor one, because I miss wearing armor. But no, I have the title Master Bard. It is not the class that I'm best at, and I would not merit being made a Paragon today.
Your honesty, though, is...
It is my only masterhood, though, and I do cherish it. Because it meant so much to me as a kid, and I didn't realize how much it meant to me and how much bitterness I had held on to about it until Alucard gave it to me. And I really appreciate him for helping me get rid of all that bitterness.
It's whatever. Yes, you're right. Speaking more of Bard, though, since we know that you don't really play it that much, how about your top 3 Bard spells that you wouldn't go without?
Right now, let me think. I would go with, I would take songs, chants. I would take chants. I feel like even if I put together a spell list that had nothing, I would take chants. Bard has Swift, right? I hope.
I believe so.
Maybe. But I would also take, because I'm working on a build that does this, because I want to play a Hospitaller, an Amp Guard, and a Healer Knight that goes out as a Cleric. I would take that one where you tie a ribbon on your wrist, and you have 5 little ribbons you can pull off, and you can heal people as long as you don't move. I would take that spell.
You got 2 more, or?
I thought the first 2 counted.
Oh, the chance? Is that?
Break concentration, because people like Sane hate it.
And that's why we play the game now, right? It's just to make Sane...
Right. We're like dwarves in Bilbo's house, and Sane is Bilbo.
Yes.
You can tell him I said that. Please message him right now. If you're watching this, message Sane and tell him I said that.
All right. Kron. Oh, no, that was Kron. Going to a class that you know a little bit more about and that you play. Healer. Still would like to know tips and tricks for someone who's starting their healer's journey in this mad Amp Guard world.
Oh, there's 2 ways you can answer that question. One of them is, how do you answer it when you can't actually go to the field? And to that, I would say, take care of your friends and family. Be nice to people online. Remember that there's a lot of people out there not being nice to people online, and you don't have to be one of them. So heal that way. But as far as the battlefield goes, this is my opportunity to share that spell list I mentioned earlier. So I leveled up Druid by signing in as Druid at feasts, signing in as Druid at the field and going out with a sword and a shield and not actually playing the class, and eventually getting level 6, because I really wanted to get all the enchantments, because my idea was, I'm going to go out and give everybody enchantments, and then I'm just going to go fight and forget about it, because really I just want to do sword and board for this game. But I found that as I played Druid, I really cared about the enchantments. And I really cared about, I've got this stone form ability that I can't get attacked with, and all that stuff. So I really got into it. Druid is really complicated, man. It's just, there's so many moving parts to that class that you have to pick something and focus on it, and I'm not good at that. So I was hanging out at a burger bar in Denver with Dutch and Grix and a few other people. And Dutch was there talking about his healer spell list, and he told it to me, and I fell in love with it right away, and I said, that is a spell list for me, and I've kept it ever since. So he takes Warder and Priest and puts them together. He takes Swifts, he takes, 6, 7, 8 Resurrects, Heals, maybe a Hold and a Release, Sword and Board, and that leaves 30 points for Bless, for Blessing Against Wounds per life. So he takes that, and he gives them to everybody. And let me tell you why I like that. Reason number 1, I only have to memorize 1 enchantment. And frankly, I still get the incant wrong half the time. So I have to memorize 1 enchantment, and hopefully I say that blessing or enchant or whatever the incant actually is. I have 1 enchantment strip as long as I carry a bunch of them. I can give them to everybody on my team, and if they mess up, they can just come back and get it. And I found that giving a bless to a newbie is just as good as giving like a gazillion points of stone skin to a newbie. So I might as well just give them the bless. So I love that spell list. It is the only one I use as healer. And I play a lot of healers. It's, like I said, my favorite class.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super fun to just be like, okay, I'm gonna walk back 3 feet. Hey, I lost my enchantment. Ding. Okay, I'm going back out again.
You've had this happen where you're fighting somebody like Dom, and you can fight Dom, you can beat Dom, but he will usually get more shots in than you're going to get in, right?
Yeah.
You've had it happen where I'll come behind you, and he hits you, and it's like really quickly, swift enchant, or enchant again, just as fast as I can keep it going.
Yeah.
And kudos to Dom. He does not get frustrated. He just looks at it like, well, I guess I got to hit him again.
Oh, so, no, I've got to beat Kodiak again. Weird. All right.
But I love it because it keeps you in the game longer. It gives you that chance of, okay, well, that didn't work. I can try something else out. And it works on new players, too. It doesn't just work on people who've been playing for a few years like you, keeping it in like that.
I'm glad I'm no longer a new player in your eyes. Thank you so much for that. Tajima would like to know, what are your future goals for yourself? And are you happy where you are in Amgard currently as far as awards go?
I'm glad you said as far as awards go and didn't just limit to you, are you happy in Amgard? So we'll maybe get to that one. But what are my future goals in Amgard? I don't know. I think that my immediate goals is I want to get back on the field. I would like the closures to end so we can go back and fight again. Mm-hmm. And I want to enjoy that not being in any kind of no kingdom office at all, except for being a knight. And no interkingdom office, and just focus on this is our field, these are our people here. Let's make this cool. Let's make this fun, because it can be. I mean, that's all we're worrying about. We don't have those other thoughts at the back of our head, because you're our king right now, and you're sitting here interviewing me. But I'm sure you've got at the back of your head, well, you got to work on this thing, going on all the time. And it's nice, as much fun as it is to work on those things. And I won't say that it's not. I've loved being king, and I've loved working on those things. But it's there, and I'm looking forward to not doing that. I don't know about awards. Like, people will often joke, hey, you've been knighted this third time, are you going for the fourth? And I am absolutely not. Even if they change what a sword knight is and they say we're adjusting our standards and our scope, I just don't know if that's for me, because I feel like every belt that I have to work to represent and uphold and maintain, and I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing it with that. There's some paragons that would be fun to work towards and to build the kits for and to earn. There's a couple masterhoods like Master Griffin that someday will be are things that I aspire to. It's because I've known Master Griffins who are some of my favorite people in Amgard. Shadow in the Wetlands, Frank Grimes, is a joy. I'm sure he ruffles some feathers when he posts on the internet, but I fondly remember, well, I love him to begin with, but I also fondly remember having a Dragonspine Knights meeting at Gathering of the Clans that we had on the ditch field, because we weren't able to have it the night before, so we just met down at the ditch field and we had our meeting there. And we don't talk belts at the Gathering of the Clans meetings. We talk about each other. We talk about how we're doing, how are our lives. Are everybody okay out there? And there's some serious conversations that happen. No votes, no candidates, just that. Mm-hmm. Well, Shadow wanders by and he says, what are y'all doing? And I said, well, we're having a knights meeting, but it's open to other knights. You can have a seat. So he sat down and he leaned into it. He was there for listening to our stories. He was there for telling his own stories and sharing his own heartfelt stories. And it was just wonderful. So I really appreciate him for doing that, especially. But there's also Master Griffins like Tristan, who's currently the King of the Burning Lands, and he may have been the first Master Griffin. And he's somebody that I adore. I love Rob. He's a Dragonspiner from the 90s. He was one of our first sword knights in Dragonspine before moving to the Burning Lands. And I think that he represents Master Griffin so well. So I aspire to walk in his shoes someday.
For anyone who didn't get it, Kron, when the question comes up about him aspiring for his fourth belt in Sword Knight, I've tried. Well, I've been like, hey.
And don't think that I don't see Ruth saying Sword Knight lol in the chat there, because I do.
I'm glad you can see the chat.
Thank you, Annabelle E. Your Highness. Please, I appreciate your laughter. Now that said, this amuses me. I can't help but say these things because it amuses me so much. I, under pre-award standardization regulations, am technically eligible for Knight of the Sword. And we changed the rules such that I no longer would be. In the old regulations, there are 2 or almost 3 ways that I would have been eligible for it. But I don't know. I fight people in Amcard and I do all right, and then I fight Knights of the Sword, and it is a different story.
Yeah.
It is so different. And I'm going to be 44 years old this year, and I haven't worked at it either. I haven't worked on physical fitness. I haven't worked on thinking like a fighter. I've worked on, hey, let's have a good time and get out there and ditch. And I think you've got to think, you've got to have that combat computer. You have to have the will to want it. I wouldn't say that I wanted Crown, because that was a long time ago. That's a weird story. Or Flame, for that matter, was weird too. But Serpent, I really pursued becoming a Master Dragon. I wanted it, and I thought like a Master Dragon, and I worked like a Master Dragon. I'm not doing the work that a Warlord does.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, though, for anyone, I tried.
Your Majesty, if you knight me, I will not show up.
That's fair.
Sir.
I would never do any sort of ninja knighting, Sir Randall. You know how I feel about ninja anything. I am, but I will not do. That being said.
Ninja Turtle?
Sure. Ninja Bear.
There we go.
Tajima would like to know what belt you're most proud of. It seems like Serpent Knight stood out there a little bit.
Crown.
Okay.
I came back to Amcard in 2000, and I was so happy to be back, and so happy to be welcome back. When I was a kid, I was really high-strung and a little histrionic and not particularly easygoing. And so when I came back, I didn't know this at the time, but a lot of my friends who knew me from the day were saying, "Oh, Ben's back. Is this going to be okay?" And so I had to win a lot of people over. And then I decided I wanted to run for office. And they were thinking, well, that's cool. He's running for champion. But I also have a note of paper on the wall here, which I would show it to you on the camera, but it wouldn't show up because of the Zoom. But it's the newsletter we have of the declarations for office. And I wrote on it, "I, Randall, declare for champion," and also Monarch, I think, Randall. And then I talked to all the people that were on the outs in our kingdom, the people that weren't part of the in crowd, the people that weren't the cool kids. And it turns out there were more of them than the cool kids. And so I won the election. Unexpectedly. Totally unexpectedly by 1 vote. And became king. And they were not sure what to do. And what they ended up doing is they kind of manipulated me into knighting people I didn't want to knight. And they frustrated me a lot. And I got really mad at them. And we had some blow-ups. It was really ugly. And I regret a lot of that. I would tell monarchs now, your first time in Monarch, you got to be water off a duck's back. Don't let that stuff get to you because people are just doing their best. That's the advice I would have liked at the time. But I'm not sure I would have been capable of following it. I was 23 and kind of an idiot. But I was king, and then I was off for a reign, and then I was king again, and that was difficult, but bouncing back from a lot of those struggles that I just described and trying to do better. And then I was regent, and the king that I was regent for knighted me, and I was not expecting it. It was technically supposed to be a surprise, but Emmer drove up through the gate of the event that I was running, and I was doing gate duty at the time. And she says, "Would you like a white phoenix or a black phoenix?" And I said, "Emmer, I don't get to wear any sort of phoenix." And she says, "Oh, forget I said that," and drove through. So I was knighted at that event, and it was weird. I didn't know what to do. I felt really confident, like I'd done king and I was pretty good at it, despite the travails that I just mentioned. And I felt like I was comfortable being a Grand Duke. But being a knight was weird, but I've had a long time to get used to being a crown knight. And I identify very strongly as a Knight of the Crown. When people ask what kind of knight you are, I will often say Knight of the Crown and just forget to say the rest. Because it is where my heart really is. It is in how can we make this game fun for people? How can we make it better for people? How can we navigate all the stuff that I discussed earlier about it's difficult when you're in charge. It's easy when you're not in charge. You're like, this is the way it's got to be. Well, when you're in charge, there's 10 people telling me this is the way it's got to be. How do I figure this out? I have loved that for a very long time. I don't know that I want to do it right now, but I know that I'm going to want to do it again. And I know that I've loved doing it every time, whether it's been sheriff of our park or chair of the Circle of Monarchs, which I've loved doing as well. That was one of my favorite things in Amcard. And, you know, if the Circle of Monarchs came to me today and they said, we need help, we need a good chair, I would say, Shit, I'll think about it. I wouldn't say no right away. I would say I'll think about it and see what we could do. I just love Crown.
Yeah, that's I mean, you're as long as the story's been told, you're a leader.
Thank you.
So, pardon me. Ragnarok would like to know, what is your opinion on opening the Paladin anti-Paladin abilities in Amtgard, perhaps with or without the name change?
Oh, that's a good question. We've talked about this a little bit, you and I. And I think at the time I said that I'm not sure where my opinions are. I know where they've been, and I feel that they're evolving, but I know where they are right now. So in the past, my opinion would have been, no, we don't want to do that. But a lot of people want to play classes that can heal and wear armor. A lot of people want to play the Dark Marauder that destroys the countryside, and we don't have classes that do that. So what my thought process on it was, okay, well, how can we make this work? Because when you see a white phoenix, you know that I'm representing knighthood right now. When you see a black phoenix, you know the same thing. And I just mentioned one of our traditions that when you have a new knight coming on, you say to them, are you a white phoenix or a black phoenix? Are you a paladin or an anti-paladin? It's built into our traditions and our culture. And I'm not somebody that puts a lot of stock in tradition. I'm kind of a radical human being, but that's fun every time we do it. Every time we have a new knight, I enjoy, as a knight, being able to ask that question and then being able to put together the garb and the garments for them. And the other knights do too. And I don't think it's a harmful tradition. I think it's something that's kind of fun that we look forward to. And as we expand knighthood and make it more accessible, I think it will solve some of those problems. But when it comes to paladin and anti-paladin, there's a lot of people who really want to play those classes. And so I think, well, how can we make that happen? Well, first of all, they got to have a sash like other classes do. We don't want to have a phoenix. We want a sash across the chest. Make them just like any other class. And that's rough because we're out of colors, right? What are you going to do? Pink for anti-paladin, and I have no idea what colors left over for the other ones, I mean, but figure something like that out. I think the proposal this year had multicolors. But then I also, and I think I still think this, but I don't know, I think you need to change the names, because for me, as someone who's into all that Charlemagne poetry and into all that history stuff, into all the idea of a paladin, because I identify as a paladin pretty strongly in Amtgard. For me, paladin means the one true knight. It means Galahad. It means Percival. That's what paladin means to me. And so the name matters to me as a person who values words. And therefore, I think it's critical that we keep paladin and therefore anti-paladin as synonymous with knights, the different types that we have. I've not been a big fan of anti-paladin in Amtgard ever. I think that it's problematic for what it produces, but I heard somebody the other day call it the anti-hero of Amtgard, and I really like that. So now I like it again.
I think that was Beatrix.
You're right, it was, who was wonderful in every way, let me say. But maybe I'm the one who's wrong. Maybe when I say, hey, paladin as a word matters, there's somebody else out there who's saying, well, the word paladin matters to me too. I played a paladin in World of Warcraft for 10 years or whatever, and therefore it matters to me as well. And so I don't know how to navigate that. And I found myself during the Circle of Monarchs meeting working on my arguments of, let's figure out a compromise here. Let's make it work where we can open the classes, but not keep them with the names that they have or the symbols that they have, because those are our knighthood names and symbols. And there was a point where I was thinking, good God, Ben, do you care about this? Does this even matter? And I don't know. And the thing that got for me at the end of it was when King Tristan of the Burning Lands, who again is one of my favorites, stands up and says, well, rhetorically stands up and says, look, I know you have a lot of votes in favor of this proposal, and I know that you believe very strongly in it, and I respect that, but I'm offering a plea. And he says that like a plea for just this one bit of tradition. This is something that matters to a lot of us who've been playing the game for decades. Please just leave this one thing. And the way that he said it, and the way that he expressed it, and the politeness and the decency in him, and the care of somebody who's been part of Amtgard for so long, and is so baked into, for me especially, baked into our history and our story of what this is about, that ended some of my doubts a little bit. I don't want to say permanently, but it brought me back to the idea of, what, if we're going to open these classes, because we do need a cleric class, right? If we're going to open these classes somehow in Amtgard, let's find another way to do it. Let's leave the phoenixes leave the names and find another way. And who knows, maybe that's give healers armor and they lose most of their aggressive spells and enchantments. Who knows, maybe something like that. So that's where I am. I know that's a long, rambling answer that goes in all directions, but I think that's where I landed after that Circle of Monarchs meeting.
Yeah, I was already in agreement with Tristan before he spoke up. The term paladin cannot leave a white belt, in my opinion. It has to stay. The Phoenixes have to stay. If these classes need to be brought up to the populace, there has to be a way that they're named something else.
I know that's a minority view in Amcard. There's, I think, 6 kingdoms that voted that way. And the other 16 just said open them. And who knows, maybe they said open them with the idea that we'll open them and then we'll change them. They might have been voting that way because that was not presented. That part of the Circle of Monarchs meeting was not handled well, but they might have had a change of opinion after they voted on one thing and then changed their course. But yeah, it's a minority opinion. And I don't know if I'm going to be there in a year or 2 years or 5 years, but it's where I am right now. I'm with you.
Yeah. And again, mine might change, but I have a pretty strong opinion about what knighthood is for someone who's brand new to the game, which means my opinion means less as far as it goes. But it's one of my favorite topics. I have strong opinions.
Well, hold on. So first of all, you say new to the game. You've been here how many years now?
January will be my 3rd year.
That's getting on for most people in Amcard are either 4 years or less. That's half of the organization, and 4 years and more is the other half of the organization. So you're representing at least half of our game right now. And I think your views on Amcard, on knighthood and Amcard, matter as much as anyone's. They may matter more than my views on knighthood. You're a king of a kingdom. You can knight whoever you like, and your views drive that discussion. So I don't know. I think that newbies and veterans, their views matter, and we need to take those views into account because we're bringing people in who are going to be the future of our organization, and we need to build that culture. And frankly, I'm curious what your views on knighthood are.
Well, I mean, I got a minute, but I don't know if you do. Just to say, the white belt means a lot to me. Maybe one day I'll end up doing Kingdom of Kodiak, and that could be a question asked to me. No promises, but
if you need a Kingdom of Kodiak stand, then I would be glad to be Kodiak for an evening.
There are so many people that are saying that. A lot of people want to see it. I don't know why. You guys could just ask my opinion. I'm pretty opinionated.
Maybe we will in a structured format for about an hour or 2 hours.
Fair. Just say we'll move on. Still would like to know, what would be your advice to give someone who is interested in pursuing one of the belts that you have?
Wow. That's a rough one because I know what I had to do to get those belts, but it's not what you have to do today. Flamen changed since I got it. Crown changed since I got it. Serpent belt is totally messed up in our kingdom. We didn't make a serpent belt for 10 years. So I don't know that any advice I would have on my path would be relevant to anybody. But I can tell people what it would take to get my vote as a knight. I think that it's not my job as a knight to it's a dirty word, right? It's not my job to gatekeep, but it's my job to offer counsel to you, the king, and to the other knights on whether or not we should knight somebody, to vote yes or no, and to be aware of what the candidates are doing. And I take that job pretty seriously. It's really the only job knights have in the Corpora, isn't it? That we have to vote on knights. So if anybody was on the path for knighthood, anyone listening, you can know this right now, you can message me and say, what should I be doing? What are things that I'm doing right now that I should keep on doing? There's a formula that Casca has that she gives to candidates. It's the red light, yellow light, green light, where she'll red light the things that they need to stop, green light the things they need to keep on doing, and yellow light the things they got to pay attention here, be cautious. Frankly, the other thing I learned from Casca is every time I vote in a night circle, yes or no, I message the candidate and I give them the copy of everything that I said. So they hear it from me first before they hear it from anybody else. But if you need advice from me, I'd hit you up. Now, I would say keep on doing the things that you're doing. Work on improving the things that you're doing. Do things that you love. And I think that Amcard has changed a lot in the last 15 years in terms of it's okay to pursue knighthood. It's okay to say, I want to be a knight. What do I got to do? And for knights to tell you, cool, here are the things, X, Y, Z. Start working on these. The thing to be aware of is Kodiak is king right now. Maximum 9 months from now, he won't be king. Someone else will be. I'm a knight now. We have other knights, but they all have different views. Everybody has their own idea. You ask me and another knight to agree, and we're not gonna. Sometimes people will say the knight circle said, and I just want to laugh because I look at the discussions and I think, I got outvoted again, as I always do in the knight circle. It's constant. And the idea that we're a monolith does not exist. Knights all have their own ideas, and you ask one person, you'll get a different view than another person gives. Is that useful? I don't know. But the thing is, it's worth asking multiple people because they're going to have different ideas on what it would take to get their vote. And it's worth asking the monarch, hey, what are things you look for in a knight candidate? As for me, I want to be an open book. I always have tried to be as far as who I would knight as king and who I would vote for as a knight. Just ask. Or if you're scared to ask someone else to ask me for you. I can work with that.
If you're interested in taking a squire belt, have another knight go up to the knight that you're interested in talking to see if it's a possibility first.
Oh, theme of the evening, no names mentioned.
Tajima. All right, the last question before we get to your last category, which is the funny stuff, is a real heavy one. So take your time if you need to, but what is the hardest thing or situation that you've had to deal with as a knight and a leader in Amtgard?
What is the hardest thing? Well, wow. Let me give you a couple of answers to that. I would say, first of all, the last few years have not been particularly easy in Amtgard. We've been at a difficult time of transition in the organization. I've been working since 2017, late 2017, to transition myself out of the executive chair role in the Circle of Monarchs and to hand it off to others. I was going to do that in 2018, but I postponed a year so that my executive secretary could step down, and I ended up doing it in 2019. There's a lot of things that I'm pretty proud of in terms of what we worked on in that period, but there's a lot of things that I was done with after late 2017. I love fighting the good fight. I love standing up for important things and pursuing great goals. And there's bad people out there that are trying to hurt people and finding ways to make that not happen. That's my passion for Amtgard. And what I really didn't enjoy is I felt like in the last several years, I was spending more time getting fights with people that were on my side than on the other side of an issue. And that's not fun. It was great when we were all happy warriors doing the good thing, but when we're squabbling with each other, that was not what I was enjoying, and I'm not good at that. I'm not good when my friends are upset with me. I'm not good when I'm upset with my friends. So that was probably, for me, some of the worst experiences, and trying to find a way to navigate those and get out of those while still doing my duty and fulfilling my obligations and doing my due diligence and performing with the excellence that I expect of myself was a bit of a challenge. I also remember a time in 2004, I think it was, maybe 2005 spring. I'd have to look it up. But in one of those 2 years, when I was king, and this is yet another one of those stories of Amtgard breaks your heart, when I found out that my region had been doing some not great things, and I had to deal with that, and it really hurt me. But more importantly, it also really hurt the kingdom. It hurt our numbers badly. There was a lot of falling out about that whole issue. It was just a disaster. There was money involved. There were family lives involved. It was bad, and it didn't have to be. The underlying issue was really minor. It was just it was almost just a mistake. It was some malfeasance, but it was mostly just a mistake. And if they had just said, "Shoot, I messed up," very early on, it would have gone nowhere. But they worked hard to lie to people and to get people to lie for them to cover up for it. And I remember walking around at the park after having to deal with this and just kind of losing it and just not being able to cope and just saying, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done. This is not what I'm here to do. And just that feeling of getting your heart broken by Amtgard because you're not there to investigate your friends. And that's what I was suddenly there to do. Those are the moments that stand out for me as really hard because I'm not good at that stuff. I'm good at inspirational rhetoric. I'm good at, hey, we can all do this. I am not good at oh, son of a bitch, I can't do this. This is a mistake, or I've messed up in some way, or I've contributed in some way to this mistake, or I didn't see this mistake coming, or this mistake came out of nowhere and now I've got to deal with it because I'm the one in charge. I don't say that I hate things lightly. I hated that, and don't want to do it again. And I know that I will have to, because I said it in 2004 and I ended up doing it again in recent years, and I know it's going to happen again 10, 15 years from now, or however long it takes me to get back into that. But those are hard things to do, and I don't wish them on anyone. You don't want to fight your friends.
You do not. All right. I got you through wisdom. I got you through valor. I got you through knighthood. Let's try to bring some levity to the conversation. Morgan would like to know, why do you get good pitcher for your Kingdom of Kodiak? That's actually for me. So Randall doesn't take a bad pitcher.
What was wrong with Morgan's picture? I thought it was great.
Well, if you ask Morgan, it's a bad picture. But
does Morgan not like his picture? Is he one of those people who does not like his own photograph?
I think so.
Morgan, you are very pretty. You take nice selfies.
There you go. That's a seal of approval right there. So moving on. Deverick would like to know, how do you feel about Paladins receiving Santa Fe Grill?
I feel pretty good about it. I don't have anything against anti-Paladins. I think that they made the wrong choice and their garb is ugly, but I think that they're often pretty good people. I feel bad that I said that. Their garb's not ugly. Their garb's that's really beautiful. They make great garb and they deserve burritos.
Well, he was offering burritos to Paladins.
You said anti-Paladins, didn't you?
No.
Well, then I will stand by my position and say Paladins deserve burritos.
But their garb isn't ugly.
No, their garb is not ugly.
Okay.
I have never in my life seen an ugly Paladin. Not once.
Not once.
Okay. Not once.
Not once.
Not once. Keep that in mind if you ever get knighted, so you know which color to pick.
Redbeard would like to know, how much whiskey or gin can you drink in an hour and a half interview?
Can, should, or am?
Well, let's go with how much have you drank so far?
So this here is maybe 2 or 3 shots. Mm-hmm. And they talk about imposter syndrome. I am very good at drinking whiskey. I do not have any imposter syndrome about my ability to do so. And so this is fine. This is no problem at all. I would have to probably 50% or double this to have any trouble with this interview, or to really hit. I know that some of my answers were like a little, sort of maybe a little emotional. I can't tell. I don't understand emotions, but to really hit emotional, it would have taken easily twice as amount.
Okay. We'll get to the emotional stuff down the road as far as your understanding of things. But
thank you, Your Majesty.
You're welcome. Bex, friend of the show, would like to know, what's your favorite drink for drinking with Randall?
Oh, it's going to be whiskey. Now, that said, I have had changes of that in the past. In the past, I believed whiskey in the winter, vodka in the summer, because you chill your vodka until you can pour it like it's syrup, and then you put ice in it anyway because ice mellows it. People think mellow is a dirty word. It evolves the flavor of the alcohol throughout. I also use ice with my whiskey because it does the same thing. It opens up some of the flavors and broadens them and raises them and changes them. But recently, I've become really more of a fan of whiskey. I got some gin recently, and I tried it. It just didn't do it for me, so whiskey.
Okay. Along the lines of drinking, Morgan would like to know, if there was a restaurant named Randall's or bar named Randall's, what would the signature drink be?
I think you had an answer for this earlier, didn't you? I like your answer a lot. A handle of Randall, which is just hilarious. Wow. I would say this. The signature drink of a Randall-themed bar would be based very heavily on a Bellator meeting that took place in 2011. It would be a martini in which you possibly add ice. It's served as close to cold as possible, but it very well may be room temperature. You raise the glass with the vodka and the maybe ice in it, and you think about Italy. That would be the drink. There may also be dirt.
Okay. All right. I was not expecting a martini to come.
I was, when I taught myself to drink hard liquor, because I was always a beer guy, and then I decided one day, Martinis have olives in them, and I really like pickles and olives. I would like to learn how to drink those. So I did. Martinis were my jam for a very long time before whiskey.
Okay. Interesting little piece of knowledge there. Stillhead would like to know, is a Pop-Tart a sandwich or a breakfast ravioli?
Pop-Tart's sacred. It is important. When I go to the Circle of Monarchs meetings, the 2 meals I bring, the first is I always bring Pop-Tarts because I know that I'm going to have a moment at the end of the Circle of Monarchs meeting when it's just been this emotional crescendo and I need a Pop-Tart. It's really the only cure for such things. I've added to that ravioli, which really, when you think about it, is a kind of a Pop-Tart, but made by Chef Boyardee.
So it is a Pop-Tart a sandwich or a breakfast ravioli?
It's a ravioli, absolutely.
Okay, all right. I think Sir Sane might argue, but he might not. I don't know.
I defer to Sane. He is an expert on all things food.
Yeah, yes. He will define the thing for you. Tajima would like to know, how much ranch is too much ranch for a salad?
Wow. Well, I think that there's an answer to that. And I ranch by instinct. I use my gut. Literally use my gut. Sometimes I'll think, wow, gut's larger than I want it to be, less ranch. But sometimes I'll think, well, that's just the right amount of ranch. I would say that you probably want to see the vegetables. And more ranch than that is too much. And yet, I fondly recall being in a steakhouse where the waiters didn't bring you menus. They just walked up and looked at you and said, you're getting the T-bone and you're getting the filet. And I remember there were salads there. I was terrified because this was 1998 and they didn't show us the price for any of these things. But I remember there were salads there that they would walk across, and I saw somebody carrying this plate and it had a slice of cake on it, like frosted all the way down. And I realized when they put it down, that is not icing, that is ranch on a wedge of lettuce. So, and no, it might not have been ranch, it might have been a different dressing, but it convinced me then that I don't know how much ranch is too much. I'm not equipped to know. And it may be that not seeing the salad at all is still not enough ranch.
That's deep. That's deep. Of all the things that we've said today, not knowing about the ranch level in your salad is.
I have to be honest, sometimes you need to see your salad and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you know how much ranch you need and sometimes you don't. And that's okay. If you're out there and you don't know how much ranch you need, I want you to know that you're not alone. And some people just don't know that. And you may someday, but it's okay not to know that right now.
Yes, absolutely. Sir Randall, just very comforting. Sir Smiley would like to know, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream sandwich?
Oh my goodness, I love Sir Smiley. He's such a wonderful man.
Yes.
He's kind, he's wonderful, he's dedicated to the organization, he makes nice swords. I have a couple of them that I really wish I could hit people with. And has a really good mustache too. I understand he's a preacher and I wish him the best in that endeavor too. Mm-hmm. But as for the flavor of ice cream sandwich, I think I like, what is the ice cream sandwich called when it's just like a couple of chocolate flavored cookies on the outside and vanilla on the inside? What is that?
Classic, I would.
Classic? Yeah, that's me. That's me.
You're a classic ice cream sandwich man.
Well, I might be avant-garde for all I know. I cannot imagine an ice cream sandwich that I wouldn't eat. But that's the one that comes to mind when I think, do I want one? I do. Yes. And that's the one.
Okay. All right. Morgan would like to know, what, in your opinion, is the best dessert and why is it cheesecake?
Cheesecake? Oh, yeah, it is cheesecake. I have some very fond memories of cheesecake, which I will not utter here. But I really do love cheesecake. I have had many fine cheesecake adventures in Amtgard with some of my closest friends. And I cherish them, and I cherish cheesecake. I've been to a cheesecake factory, and I remember looking at the menu and thinking it all looked so delicious, and we ate the food instead of the cheesecake, and we were so full that we didn't get to it, and I regret that. But no, it's absolutely cheesecake. There's nothing like the way you put a fork into a slice of cheesecake and you just like bring it down and it sort of crumbles and pulls apart, and you have this little wedge on your fork of this this perfect little triangle from the tip of it, and it's got like this crust on the bottom and maybe it has like a little bit of syrup on the top. He's not wrong. I think cheesecake is where it is. I think that it was Morgan who said this.
Yeah.
I think that we should cherish and protect Morgan because of his stance on this position. And I still love his selfies.
Yeah, I mean, The guy takes a good selfie and he knows about his desserts. What else?
And if you ask me privately about the cheesecake story, I won't tell you. Well, there's a few people that I will tell, but mostly not y'all.
Okay.
It's not scandalous. It's just intriguing.
Okay. Tajima would like to know your favorite She-Ra princess.
She-Ra is my favorite She-Ra princess.
Okay.
I love She-Ra. I see She-Ra doing She-Ra things, and I feel like identity with She-Ra. And I think my favorite thing about She-Ra is any one of us who has this ability to step into a thing, or to become a thing, or to be, this is my go time moment where I have to stand up in front of the circle of monarchs, or in front of a bunch of teachers, or in front of a bunch of professors, and do my, here's the thing that I know, boom, there it is. We know what it's like to be an 8-foot-tall warrior princess, and we identify with She-Ra very strongly. And then we know what it's like to go back to being some goof-ass who doesn't know what's going on with their life at all, but is just trying their best and has some pretty good friends who are hopefully pretty good people, but who knows, but I think they are. I think that we all think She-Ra is a pretty good princess if we're that person.
I feel attacked, but...
Do you? Is She-Ra not your favorite? Kodiak, have you seen
I have to admit, currently, I still have not watched She-Ra. I have it planned. I have not, though.
It will be your
I
chance.
will.
Why do you feel attacked?
Dirtpass with friends. I thought, I was like,
You know,
man.
you know what it is. You know, it's like, I'm a dirtpass. Okay, stepping up. Now I'm a king.
Yeah,
You know what it is to be 8 feet tall.
Yeah. It's nice sometimes to feel 8 feet tall when you're not.
Right? Exactly. Because she's not 8 feet tall, but sometimes she is.
Yeah. Morgan would like to know if you could morph any two animals together, what would they be and why?
Probably a dog and a seal, because they're pretty close already. And I would love to have a seal just like flopping around my house, and I would demand a pool if we had one.
Oh, okay. So if you got a seal dog, we would get a pool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That seems fair. Darius would like to know, which one is your favorite tattoo that you have and why?
Oh, my God. I sometimes forget, because the picture that we posted was me sleeveless. It was just arms, but I have plenty of tattoos. And I get them on whims. So it's hard to say that I like them as opposed to I really wanted them at the time. And it's hard to say that I really wanted them at the time because I just walked in and said, how about we do something that's kind of like I don't know, maybe a mouse holding a sword. And my artist will say, okay, what about this? And we'll ink it on. But again, you're asking about a favorite. So if I have to give an answer that's a favorite, my off-the-cuff answer would be the silly bird that I have here, which is my first. Because I saw a bridge on the way to where I work with a weird little pecking bird painted on it that looked like a totemistic bird of some sort. And I said, I really would like that, but I'm not sure if it's significant to people or sacred, so I got to be careful. So I brought that and some photos of some Santa Fe poetry and some other things to my tattoo artist. And she says, yeah, I can put something like that together. And then she gave me something that mostly just looks like the Santa Fe poetry. And not poetry, pottery, I mean. Like, well, whatever. I like my dumb bird. But I also have a couple of paws on my back left calf that are my dog's paws, who passed away in 2018, and she was my beloved little lady. And I also kind of like the Kairin that I have on the sleeve, because this is my sleeve, and it's got flowers and wind bands, and it's got a Kirin right here. And it's this majestic sort of flying unicorn giraffe thing. And all my animals are looking that way, and the Kirin is looking this way, as though he, she, they are watching over all the other animals and guarding them and thinking about them and thinking, I have all this power. I am the wind, I am the storm, and I can care for you. And I like to think that's what it's doing.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a lot more in depth than I thought you were going to be able to give.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a silly answer. I'm sorry.
No.
It's the rat with a sword.
Knowing that you do just do it on a whim, I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those things where it's like, I don't know.
Totally whim. I have an appointment scheduled for the day after my birthday because that's how back ordered my tattoo artist is. And I'm not going to decide before I go in what it is. I'm going to go in and say, I don't know, what about a crab or something?
There you go. Darius would also like to know, he's got a couple of questions in a row here. Who is on Team Jetlag?
Wow, you're asking silly questions, but these are sort of serious.
Team Jetlag, all you got to do is identify the members involved.
All right. I know that it's getting a little bit into the 90-minute mark here, but this is going to be a little bit of a story, okay?
Okay.
Let me say first of all that we reinvented Team Jet Lag for a jugging game that we played in our duchy, and several of the Order of the Ash members were on it, and I remember Mag and Hilda made a trophy, and we gave that trophy to a team. Jet Lag was that team as well, but the original Jet Lag was a jugging team from 2003, 2004, maybe 3, and we were driving to Arrakis in Amy's Jeep, Azrael Jade in her Jeep, and it was me and Kyron, who was formerly our king, and Azrael Jade and Jeff Jays, whose anchor name is Finn. He plays in Santa Fe occasionally. He's a member of Wheel. And at one point he says, "Hey, I hear this is the event where everybody jugs. Can we make a jugging team?" And we laughed at him. We said, "Jeff, we know you're we know you're pretty new, but Arrakis is where everybody jugs, and it's serious. It's for real. People get pretty into it, and we're terrible. And we are not going to enter because we're going to get dunked on." And he says, "No, there's 4 of us in the car. We just need one more player." Well, we figured, you know what? Maybe we're the assholes. Finn's new. He's really enthusiastic. We'll find one more player, and we're going to jug. So we get to the event, and I think we found Francis, I think it was, to be our chain, because Francis always had a flail, always, until recently. And we went out and we jugged. And spoiler alert, we were terrible. We were really bad. We went out there and we just got destroyed. We did beat a team, and it was a struggle to beat them. And I forget if it was the team that cheated on us or not, because we beat one team, and there's another team that we were getting just cheated on. The Reeds walked up to us afterwards, and they said, "That Quick keeps sloughing your shots. Are you guys doing okay? I mean, do you need to look at them more closely?" And they were people from our own kingdom. They were people from Alaska. They were just not taking their shots because they were just cheating so much on us. We're like, "No, it's cool, whatever." And then we made it through to the round where we fought the White Tiger team. And the White Tigers had Michael Hammer of God. They had Jabberwock, who was also a warlord and a sword knight. And they had a couple of other really good fighters on their team. And they looked at us and they said, "What is the record on beating a team? How fast?" And they were told, "Oh, I'm pretty sure it happened a few years ago. It was 23 seconds." And they said, "Okay." And they just rolled on our poor team and walked away with, I believe it was a 14-second jugging victory. And so that was Team Jet Lag. Kyron, Azrael Jade, me, Francis, and Finnegan, who is a fantastic fighter now. And Kyron has won tournaments since then. But we just got dunked on by this warlord team because they saw an opportunity to run up the score and they took it. Well, the next year we go to jugging and we say to Kyron, "Okay, we're doing Team Jet Lag again, but not 13 seconds, man. You can't let that happen to us. Make something happen." And even when we got dunked on, Jesse was a pretty good fighter. He could, if he put his mind to it, he could figure it out. So he says, "You know what? I'm just going to Simo on the Quick, because that way it's at least 15 seconds. And he goes in and he brings the dagger down and he brings it up into the guy and bam, they Simo, and we get a minimum 15 seconds on our team. So he prevented us from being 2-time Jet Lag. But I don't know. It was a memory. Obviously, it stayed with me very strongly. Yeah. And we were hailed on. And the hail got so bad because that was a time when everybody in Amtgard wore floppy hats, like little boonie hats, camo off to the side floppy hats. That was the thing people wore. You can find pictures of me back in the day wearing them still as late as 2011. It hailed on Jet Lag so hard that we had to stop the match.
You are part of history, though.
Jet Lag.
Jet Lag. Here we are.
And we named it Jet Lag because we're thinking, man, we're going to suck. We need a team that makes it happen. And that was 2003. No, 4. We're going to 2004. In 2005, we're going again, and we're planning on redoing Team Jet Lag. We're like, this is a thing now. We're going to go out there. We're going to make this happen because we don't care what people think. We don't care if it was however many seconds. And Amy starts working on garb, jerseys for us that have jersey material, teal sleeves, and the logo is a airliner that's going down. It's just crashing. And we cut them all out. We applicate them all on. We cut out the jersey material. It's not quite done yet. It's like a week to Arrakis, and I lose my job. And that is the Arrakis I didn't go to. We tell everybody we're not going to go to Arrakis. I got downsized, and those things are still, that was 2005, it's 2020. They are still in my garage in a plastic bag somewhere. We never finished them.
It's
Jet lag.
yeah, jet lag. All right. Thank you.
I warned you that would be a story.
It's the best. It's the best story you're in history, for better or worse. Darius would also like to know about the feathery raptor heads that are on your pictures.
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I wish I could tell you the answer, but I know that at one point Grix decided to replace many of us, not just me, with dinosaurs in the Amp-Wiki. So I think Grix was he a T-Rex? No, I don't know. I think that I was an Archaeopteryx. I think Anatole was a Velociraptor, and Grix might have been a T-Rex, but I cannot quite recall. And he just replaced several of our photos with T-Rexes, and it was there for kind of a long time. And I didn't do it, and I'm not sure what originated the story. I'm highly amused by it, though. There's a photo of me and Isaac sitting having like a knight and squire chat, and we're both all caw, caw, with our heads on, and I love it. I just wish I knew the answer.
Okay.
Grix is a very good friend, so if he thinks that I need a Archaeopteryx head, I'm not going to doubt.
Sometimes you need an Opteryx head, whatever. Kron would like to know, will Cloud's Edge maintain visitation rights for Tajima?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that everybody should have visitation rights in Tajima. I think that he's wonderful.
Yeah. Yes.
I would like to get him to as many of our chapters as possible because I think that Dragonspine has a really good person in him. I think Jacob's wonderful. And I think that the more people who see him, the more are going to see what I'm starting to see and what I think many others like you have seen already, that he's really an asset to the kingdom. He's a good friend to everyone around him. And Dragonspine is going to really appreciate having him around as the years go on. I'm excited that he's running for office, that he won the election this weekend. I noticed that a lot of people just didn't vote. What's up with that? Just abstain? You know, if somebody is volunteering in AmpGuard and you don't have a really strong opinion, just vote yes. This is a volunteer organization. The least you can do is encourage people, folks. But no, I think visitation rights for everybody. He's wonderful.
Awesome.
Get him around the kingdom. Bring him in. Have him come to your group. Meet him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good hugs. He gives good hugs.
I wouldn't
Kodiak
know.
approved.
I don't know that.
Well, I've gotten hugs and I enjoy them. So.
I trust you.
Okay. Thank you.
Majesty.
Tajima would like to know, what is your favorite pair of sunglasses? How many do you own and how many have you given away? And then what is your favorite tank top?
Wow. Giraffe, I think it's around 40, maybe 6. And my favorite tank top might be the one that I just got. Let me think about that one. Wow. I have a lot.
Ooh, is it the moose?
It might be the moose, which I'm embarrassed to say I didn't get the moose joke right away, and I got it now. It might be the moose. Let's go with that. So I have a moose tank top. It's real, like a light, comfortable material. It's great when it's hot out and when the AC is not doing the trick. It's sort of an off blue color, not quite teal, it's more like a baby blue, right? And it's got a moose across the front with a pair of sunglasses on. And the caption is in Tolkien-esque letters, "Too majestic for dwarvish bullshit." I posted a selfie of it recently, and I thought it was hilarious when we posted it, because you and I were in a role-playing game together where we're playing Tolkien characters. I'm an elf, he's a dwarf, we are best friends. and I decided I'll get some tank tops to wear while I'm playing my character. And people suggested that one, and I thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, why a moose? Is this an internet thing? And then once it arrived, I realized I'm the idiot, because that's Thranduil's moose. And Thranduil is too majestic for dwarvish bullshit. So, moose t-shirt, and I'm stupid.
You're doing great, bud.
Your Majesty.
Zana would like to know, what's the best Taylor Swift song?
Delicate.
Quick and easy. Darius would like to know, what's the story behind the Mustang project?
Ooh, my very first car was my Mustang. 1999 Mustang GT Silver with a custom bit of the engine on it that I haven't quite ever figured out. It's a 35th anniversary edition Mustang, and I remember not knowing how to drive a stick shift and going to a car dealership in Alamogordo and looking at it, and they said, well, no, we don't have any Mustang GTs. Oh, but we do have one out back that a soldier just turned in because he had to go, but we haven't cleaned it yet. And I said, I want to see it. And I went around behind the back, and there was a silver Mustang sitting there in just perfect condition, just covered in a fine layer of orange clay dust, because it's obviously this airman had taken it for one last spin through the desert. And I said, I want this. I didn't know how to drive a steak shift. So I sat in it and I said, yeah, it feels pretty good. And got out of it and said, how much is that going to be? And it was a lot of money, and it was more money than I had any sense spending on a car. But I still have that car. It's been 20 years since I bought that car. And at one point, the engine failed because I forgot to do oil changes for a year, and that's really on me. Someone's laughing at me right now. But I feel sort of hilarious saying that, because I know the people in Amcar will look at me and say, that guy seems like he really has his shit together. Well, I forgot to do oil changes on my car for a year, and the engine froze. So I had to learn how to take an engine out of a car and put an engine back into a car twice, because the first engine we ordered, because Mustangs and F-150s have interchangeable engines almost. The first engine we ordered did not quite have the ports line up, so water just poured right through it, fluid poured right through it. So we pulled that engine out and put a new one back in, and then it worked. That engine became the inspiration for our rock band, Busted Mustangs, which we still rock band to this day under that name, Busted Mustangs. And my current Mustang project is that car is beat to hell, man. It is one of the mufflers is dented down, the spoiler fell off, it's rusted all over, the interior is torn up, the panels on the side fell out, and it stopped running. But recently, I haven't been driving it, and I'm making pretty good money these days. So I took it to the mechanic and I said, I don't care how long it takes, just make it run. Make it stop where I turn left and the engine stalls, and make it stop when the radio's playing and there's a short and it stops. And he did all those things. And he's fixing the brakes right now. He's fixing the AC right now because it's hot out there, and it's running really, really good. And I'm so excited to drive this car. It's kind of my inheritance. I bought it with what little I got a Social Security payout when my father passed away in 1997, and I used that money to help buy a car. And the longer I can keep this car, the happier I'm going to be. I'm gonna drive it till it can't. I sit in that car and I feel like it's just I feel like my proprioception extends into the wheels and into the steering wheel and into the brakes. I feel the car's a part of me.
That's awesome. Only a couple more here, Sir Randall. We're almost done.
I also got a night candidate pulled over in it once. But anyway, go
on. Now I'm getting giggly. Deverick would like to know: Does Kodiak hate Queen because I cannot rock a tank top like Freddie Mercury?
Absolutely not. I feel like if you were to wear a tank top, you would look fantastic.
I should consider tank tops.
Now, I don't know that any of us can rock a tank top like Freddie Mercury, but I think you would look great in a tank top.
Well, thank you.
You have some degree of guns out. It could be out, right?
Yeah, I guess. Thanks.
And do you really hate Queen?
You know what? It's a misnomer at this point. No, I don't hate Queen. I believe they're overrated. I feel like the band rode the coattails of the lead singer. The lead singer had doing much more for people across the world, and the band rode the coattails.
Hold on. Brian May? One of the greatest guitarists of all time? And he has a solo project that's very good. And Roger Taylor did lead vocals on I'm in Love with My Car. I don't know who Roger Taylor is. Forget about that guy. But the rest of them, come on. That guy's got a PhD in astrophysics. He helped protect hedgehogs.
Are you Googling this as we speak?
No, this is Brian May. He looks like a Harry Potter wizard right now. Look at a picture of him when he's on the stage during, was he in the Super Bowl and he's playing the guitar and he's got gray hair going down? He looks like he's teaching at Hogwarts. You take that back.
No.
Google it. You'll be as angry as I am when you Google Brian May playing that show.
I may apologize later, folks.
You may.
So Still Hot wants to ride the coattails of Deverick's last question.
Brian May built his guitar out of trash that his dad found. He made it out of his mantle, of his fireplace.
You're definitely Googling this right now and not.
Am I?
You have to be. Has the show done Freddie Mercury wrong?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, because you said that Freddie Mercury had coattails to ride. You've done Brian May wrong.
Yes. Brian May, fight me.
Oh my goodness. If you were a hedgehog, you would be so grateful to him.
Well, I'm not. I'm a bear, and I don't think
He
much of
loves
Queen.
he loves animals. He would love a bear.
All right. Dalen asks,
I bet he-
what is the best 80s narrative song, and why is it Don't Pay the Ferryman?
Oh my goodness, I am upset with myself because I was going to sit and listen and be with that song today. But I have worked nonstop all day today. I haven't even had a chance to do my daily weigh-in, which I do every day because I'm neurotic if I don't do it. The answer is actually Meatloaf, I Would Do Anything for Love, the extended version. I appreciate Dallen's involvement, but I also think that upon hearing my answer, that he would say, okay, yeah, that's fair.
And he would not be wrong. That is the better answer. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that Meatloaf would do for love.
He won't do that, though.
No. And contrary to popular belief, the song does in fact say what he would not do.
It's true.
Not enough time in the show to go into that.
Yes, we're on the last page. Just a couple of questions. We're nearly done. I feel like I'm giving a survey. Still would like to know, Bears or Battlestar Galactica?
Bears.
Thank you. Your favorite D&D class and race?
Human fighter.
Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be?
Bad that it took me a second to figure that out.
Yeah.
Human fighter.
There it is. Here's rumors that you're human. Would you like to comment on this?
I believe I'm human. I feel pretty human.
Okay.
Someone started a rumor years ago in the early 2000s that I am in fact a robot, and went to the extent of photoshopping my wiki photo to have a Terminator hand coming out of it. But maybe that was mean. I'm just pretty good at handling my emotions.
That's fair. Dom would like to know, are we in a simulation?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the simulation we're in is probably also a simulation.
Oh.
The simulation's all the way down, all the way down.
Zachary, we haven't heard from him today, but he's asking about your favorite Drunk Randall story.
Well, there's one time that I tried to pick a fight with Guy. Guy is a multi-belted knight of the Iron Mountains. He's been knighted 3 times from 3 different kingdoms. One of them is sword. He's also huge. He's very strong. He's a good friend. I adore Matt so much. But I was apparently pretty drunk and trying to pick a fight with him, which is not going to end well for me. I'm not a strong person. I'm a little guy, and he's a big guy. And he was very gracious about it. I asked the next day, I said, did I threaten to fight you? And he says, no, you're fine. But I threatened to fight Guy. I would be dead if I fought Guy. Actually, no, he's a good person. He wouldn't have killed me. He would have taught me.
That's fair.
Not to fight Guy.
Someone from the outside of that hearing, no, you were fine. It's more of I was not threatened by your advances.
No, he's also a very good fighter in Amgard. I remember going to the Iron Mountains, and we fought a little bit before, so he didn't know that I improved a great deal since then. And we go up and we square up and we fight. And my first shot's like a really good block snap, and he sort of stops and looks at his arm, and he puts it behind his back, and he looks at me like, "How did you learn to do that?" And I beat him that fight, but then I saw the gears turning. Like, okay, yeah, I haven't fought in a while, but you're not going to do that again, Ben.
Sure.
So, but physical fight, yeah.
Sir Francis would like to know, does Squire Tajima deserve Sonic?
Yes. I will send him Sonic right now.
Okay. Why is the Silver Bell a sacred tradition, and why must it be passed on and protected?
Oh, wow. I love going to Amcar, but there are some weekends when I love going to Amcar more to get into a car and drive to Taco Bell and get whatever trash food we were getting than I love going to Amcar to fight. It was such a good ritual, and I miss it dearly.
Tajima would like to know your current thoughts on Taco Bell.
Wow. I know it's controversial. A lot of Taco Bell foods have been canceled, and many of my favorite foods. I was a vegetarian for many years. I love the potato burrito. Even as a non-vegetarian, I love the 7-layer. I feel this is temporary. I know that these things are cyclical. Taco Bell is absolutely going to bring these foods back with much fanfare. My faith is unbroken and unwavering. And those of you who are doubting, I don't know you anymore.
For anyone who's concerned that this menu is going to stay, I offer you the McRib as the response.
Oh, well, the McRib is based on pork belly futures, but I think the Taco Bell is going to come back anyway.
Well, sure. Tajima would like to know, is ironing your garb for pitchers important?
Yes. Yes. I iron my garb today. I think that uniforms matter. I think it's important to wear them. And I think that a lot of us, most of us dudes in AmGuard, don't notice the ironing part of it until much, much later than we should. I would say if you want to look pretty good in AmGuard, iron your garb. I ironed my garb yesterday as well for my performance aiming, and I then noticed I had a hood on. There was a patch like right on it where I missed a patch of ironing, and I just could not stop fussing with that patch of garb. Iron your garb. I don't care.
Okay. And that's your knight telling you that.
Iron your garb. Now, I once pulled out linen at a camping event once. I was sharing a hotel with somebody, and I pulled out linen and I started ironing it. And they said, "What are you doing? Why are you? It's linen. It's gonna work itself out." They were from a very wet part of the world. I'm from New Mexico, southern New Mexico. We dry. We iron our linen.
Yeah, that's fair. Tajima would also like to know, why does Kodiak care react your comments? And could you explain the difference between the care react and the heart react?
Care react. Yes. As a general rule, yellow reactions on Facebook are for assholes. Red reactions are for really nice people. I think that the care react is far too close to the laugh react, which is mostly used by people that are being nasty. And it's also kind of a, oh, bless your heart.
Sir Randall, that is not my intentions.
Oh, honey. There.
Okay.
That's what I see a care react is. And I know that people use it sincerely, so I try to interpret sincerely because I would like to be generous about it. But whenever you or Nick or someone care reacts me, my first thought is, you son of a bitch.
It's fair. It's fair. At this point now, it's more of a meme than anything that, we're working.
I love it. I love that it's a meme thing, and I accept your care reacts because I know they come from a strong place.
Yeah, thank you. 2 questions. We're almost Dom. If you were to arm wrestle anyone in the world, who would it be, and why would it be Dom?
Oh my goodness, Dom's got to be pretty good at arm wrestling. I don't know if I'd arm wrestle that guy, but I would do it because he asked, because I love him. If I were to arm wrestle anybody in the world, though, wow, that's an opportunity to get yourself in some really amazing arms, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone.
Why not Sly? Why not? Last question. If you could share any ideas from the Shire of Dragonspine to any other parks, why would it be drum dice?
Well, it would definitely be drum dice. And I think that the reason it would be drum dice is because it really evokes a strong theme without trying very hard. And it's a fun game that people can build their own culture around. Drum dice, we roll dice, we count the numbers, we play with metal coins and we gamble them. And we play it on a drum, so it makes noise when we do it. I think if you're not doing drum dice in your chapter, when your chapter reopens, you should hit me up and I'll tell you all about drum dice and you'll start playing it. It's just, I don't know if we would have had a good reign without drum dice. I think it was one of the best things we did this reign and I'm really proud of it.
I don't take a lot of credit for a lot of things, but being on the ground floor for drum dice, yes.
We kicked it off.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's made its way into multiple kingdoms. It's multiple parks. I have a written set of rules because people have asked. It's amazing. So Randall, that is all the questions I have for you. Is there anything you would like to tell the kingdom before I get into the final statements and we end for tonight?
Yeah, real briefly, just be nice, be kind out there. Facebook's a hard place. Facebook's built to make us mad and mad at each other. Don't fall into that trap. If you can be kind, be kind.
Thank you, Sir Randall.
Cost you nothing.
As far as outside of the Kingdom of Kodiak, this weekend is our mid-reign for the kingdom. We will be on Zoom for award ceremonies and additional talk of our MPO status. But with that being said, this is the end of episode 20 of Kingdom of Kodiak. I've been Kodiak. Sir Randall, again, thank you so much for coming, and I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.